Welcome to episode number 299, where I'm speaking with Ayurvedic Doctor Simmi Chopra about Bhasmas. Bhasmas are very fine Ayurvedic medicinal powders which can be made of metals, minerals, stones, herbs, etc. They're fascinating. They can be surrounded in controversy also, which we'll discuss in this episode, but their effectiveness is very powerful. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to welcome back Simmi Chopra, who's an Ayurvedic doctor from Kerala Ayurveda, and she's been practicing in New York City for the past few years at Siddha Ayur. She has a double master's in Biostatistics and Molecular Biology from Rutgers University and JNU, which helps her to understand health problems from both mainstream as well as the Ayurvedic perspective. Simmi, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. Thank you, Colette, for inviting me again. It's such a pleasure. It was great. It was fun talking to you before. And today is one of my favorite subjects today. So I'm super excited.
I'm excited too. And I really enjoyed our other conversation on arthritis that we just recently published, and age-related disease, which you're passionate about. But today's topic, I've been wanting to discuss this for so long, about Bhasmas. And so let's get right into it because we have a lot to cover. Can you please give us an introduction to Bhasmas? Because I think a lot of people are not familiar with them.
Yes. So bhasmas are these Ayurvedic preparations made of metals, minerals. These are nanoparticles, very small, very potent, fast-acting Ayurvedic preparations. There's a whole branch called Rasa Shastra that deals with these bhasmas. The metals can be anywhere from iron, copper, tin to mercury, lead, sulfur, arsenic to gold, silver. Now, the question would be that these are some serious metals that we are talking about, which they are, but there's a whole purification procedure called Shodhana, where different samskaras, different procedures are done, where these metals are boiled at very high temperature with different herbs, different herbal decoctions, and this procedure can be done multiple times from 8 to 50 to 100 times over, so that the toxicity is removed and a different elemental composition remains, which is non-toxic. And then these turn into biologically active nanoparticles. Now these bhasmas, they are yogavahi, that is, that they take in the properties of the herbs that are mixed with them, and they have a very targeted delivery system where whatever the bhasma is specific for, whichever tissue it is, it reaches that in a very little time. So these are very useful in chronic conditions, especially autoimmune conditions. And again, these bhasmas can be just metals or they can be herbal metals, so that they are mixed with herbs. Bhasm means ash. So the way they are prepared is a very intense a way of preparation where they are treated with herbal decoctions, and the process is called Shodhana, where it goes through a very tedious process, 8 to 18 to multiple times of purification. And in this process, there's incorporation of other minerals, other herbal extracts, so that the impurity of the metals, the toxicity of the metals is removed, and then the other herbs are added so that it becomes more potent. So now the bhasmas, because they are such nanoparticles, they are able to reach any part of the body in milliseconds, and they facilitate absorption and assimilation of the whatever herbs that are attached to it. When in the process, when you're making the bhasmas, whatever herbs are in it, they are able to be absorbed quickly because of the properties of these bhasmas, which are mainly the metals. Now, these metals can be just iron, copper, but they are also heavy metals like mercury, lead, sulfur. So, but again, because of the process of shodhana, also it's called like sanskar, where they go through these procedures where I can mention a few, like they are called mardana, swedana, mardana, murchana. So what happens here is first, when the toxic element is, the toxicity has been removed, then the metal goes through a process where it becomes like, it loses its properties, or even the medicinal property it loses. So then they have to kind of revive it. And that can be called, there's a niyaman, deepan. All these processes help it get revived. And then it has this medicinal quality in it. So this is how the bhasmas are prepared. And again, because of them being nanoparticles, they're able to reach any part of the body quickly.
Right. And then through this processing as well, not only are they very subtle, like so the nanoparticles are a conveyor of the herbs that are used as well in the bhasmas, but I can imagine they're very powerful. You said they take effect in seconds. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, they are very, very powerful. So, Ayurvedic herbs, they are like different kinds. Mm-hmm. They can be, majority of us know of them as herbs, like plant-based, but they are the herbs, the plant plus metals, or just pure metals also. And then they could be plant plus animal product also. So where horns or shells, feathers, etc. are also used in these bhasmas.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And so there is quite a lot of controversy around bhasmas. Can you share a little bit about that as well?
Sure. I mean, because they have these heavy metals like mercury, lead, and sulfur, so people get really nervous about it. Because mercury in itself, it's very toxic, it's poisonous. Mm-hmm. But the way, again, I come back to the shodhana, the way it's purified, the elemental composition of these metals, they change. So if we just take mercury, for example, which is supposed to be very, very toxic, so that if it's in an organic form, or even mercury chloride, those are toxic. But in the way the purification is done in Ayurveda, it is sulfur is added to it, and that inorganic form is non-toxic. So now, but the controversy is that, especially in US, it's the last few years this controversy became really huge. There was a paper written by Saper, who did this experiment, who took few Ayurvedic herbs from the Indian grocery stores, and he found that they contained some metals. Now there was a flaw in the design, because one is we do claim that Ayurveda does have herbs which are either herbs plus metals or just pure metals. So then again, he did another experiment. He published another paper where he did a little more. The design of the experiment was better, but then later on, again, he found that they had metal content. Then this last paper he did with Koch et al. They published a paper where they did finally find that the elemental composition has changed and it has become non-toxic. So, which was a great way to prove. But because people do not take the advice properly, now because these bhasmas are as potent as steroids or antibiotics. So we do not take antibiotics and steroids just over the counter. we do take it only under medical supervision. And if you know that antibiotics has a course, either it's a 5-day course or a 10-day course, but you can't be taking it for 6 months. Or same thing goes with the steroids. So similarly, in bhasmas, there's a way to, there's a dosage, which is very important, as well as how many months you can take. The maximum is 3 months. You cannot take after that. You'll have to give a huge gap of it. So, and the dosage is extremely crucial because these are very, very strong, very potent Ayurvedic preparations. So when people continue having it, there are a few cases have been reported that this person had lead toxicity because she or he was taking Ayurvedic preparations which were for 6 months. And they were taking too many of them. Let's say they are taking 10 of these metallic preparations. And for 6 months, of course, it's going to create havoc in your system.
Right.
So that is the problem that has become, as people are taking over the counter and they're taking on their own. Sometimes they're going to, sometimes the doctors, they tell you to follow up, the Ayurvedic doctors, and people don't follow up with them. And the reason why we say follow up is because we want to change the Ayurvedic preparation. We want to wean you out of it.
Yes.
So that's why the controversy is there. People go with toxicity and they blame it on Ayurvedic preparations because they are not taking it the right amount.
Okay. And with the SEPA studies and research, you said that he was taking products off the shelf. So was he testing general Ayurvedic products first?
He just took the products off the shelf and
so these are just like Triphala and things like that.
Yeah, he could be. Okay. And there was some contamination sometimes. And then he also took herbal metallic preparations. And then he said that they had heavy metals, but of course they are heavy metal preparations. But at that time, then he changed the design of experiment. Then he did one with the herbs and one with herbal metallic. So slowly he got the information and he did the proper experiment. But that paper has become very popular. I mean, if you search, that's the first paper you'll find.
I know. It's, absolutely such a shame because, as you said, he had refined his research methods. And so the first study wasn't exact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There was a flaw in the design.
Voila. Yeah, exactly. And so how do we know that the bhasmas are pure?
So there are a few tests that we can do. One is they're very, very fine. So if you rub the powder between your thumb and index finger, you will feel it's very, very fine. You should not feel the coarse powder in it. That is one test. The second is the test where you show the powder to a light, and if it is a shiny, that means it is not pure. So these are some basic tests which we can do as clients. But then again, there are tests which the practitioners, the companies who are making the product, they have different kind of tests to do, where they can figure out if it's still pure or if it still has any impurity in it.
Okay, good to know. And so let's move on to now why we would need bhasmas when we have such a range of Ayurvedic herbs which we're able to use to manage lots of health problems. Why would we need or use bhasmas?
So what I've seen in my practice, because in US we only use the herbs, the plant-based. So they are amazing, but they are a little on the slower side. It takes a few weeks to kind of start seeing the results. And people don't have patience. They want quick results. So especially people who are in severe pain. And they want some painkiller kind of action. Right. And we do have, but if we are just taking pure herbs, then we need to do a lot of therapies with it. We need to do a lot of other, real strict diet control according to your whatever imbalances. You have to do a whole, it's like a multi-prong approach you have to do. And these days people have the work and the jobs that they have, the lifestyle they are leading, a lot of people are not able to change those. Sometimes because they don't want to, and sometimes they just can't because of their work. So in those cases, bhasmas bring really quick relief. They are, as I mentioned, they are nanoparticles. They cross any cell membrane very fast, as the metabolism gets really fast, quick to act. So you'll see the results faster. So especially in chronic problems or in autoimmune problems, where just taking the herbs and all, you would need a panchkarma, like the 6 weeks detox that we have.
Yeah.
Because in chronic and autoimmune, it becomes very difficult to just manage with herbs. You can, but it takes a really long time, like 4-5 months. So with bhasmas, it becomes really fast. Within a few days, you'll see a lot of change.
Okay, amazing. And so do you have a case study that you can share with us to kind of give us an example of how bhasmas were useful in treating a rogi?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have my case. I have a lot of cases, just me, myself.
Oh, great.
As well as my daughter. So my daughter, she got Lyme disease. I did the whole approach, she went on the antibiotic for 1 month. But when it becomes chronic Lyme, every year you'll see the symptoms. And so next year, so after exactly 1 year again, she got the same symptoms. And in fact, they were much worse, much, much worse. And none of her joints, all her joints, each and every joint was paining. And even the prescription painkillers, nothing was working. So I got from India the bhasmas, and within a day, I kid you not, within a day, her pains went away. So they're that fast acting. And then during my cancer, when I got cancer, so I was taking during especially radiation. I did not have any of the side effects because I was taking these bhasmas. So that because bhasmas, they also have the rasayana property in them. They're also rejuvenating. So they work in all aspects. They can do the deepana, pachana, and everything in one they can do.
I'm going to jump in here to tell you some very exciting news. I'm finally hosting a Ayurveda rejuvenation retreat in Bali with Dr. Sujata from Amrita Siddhi Ayurvedic Clinic. That's where I worked from 2014 to 2015. And finally, after all these years of talking about it, we're going to do a retreat together. The dates are December 4th to 10th, 2023. It's an all-inclusive retreat. You'll get consultations, Ayurvedic medicines, treatments, Ayurvedic food, and you'll be in this beautiful healing cocoon of Amrita Siddhi Ayurvedic Clinic. You can check out the video and all the details on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Just click on the link in the show notes or visit my website and click on the events tab. And I hope to see you in Bali in December. Do you have more to share? These are fascinating stories.
Yeah, sure. I mean, back in India, of course, I have so many because my family lives there. So it's easy access for them. And naturally, the Ayurvedic practitioners, they do use bhasmas there. So my sister, she had her hands used to tremble a lot. You know how in Parkinson's they start trembling?
Yeah.
So the shaking. So that used to happen a lot for quite a few years. It was going on. And finally, she took again a range of bhasmas. So it was not just one, it was 2-3 of them. And again, the dosage had to be really controlled. So, and now touch wood, she's doing well.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so how are you? So they're in powder form, very fine powder, as you said.
So yes, so when the bhasmas, they're just metals, then they are just the powder form. And then when they are mixed with herbs, they usually these days they make it in a tablet form. You'll find it in a tablet.
Okay.
And when they are with so it's herbometallic. You can still find them in powder form, but these days you'll find them in tablet form also. So which is easy, too easy to take in.
Sure. And so can you take us through some of the bhasmas? Like, I was fascinated. I did a little bit of study on bhasmas, very little, and I know it's a massive field of science unto itself, and I want to talk about that in a moment. But if you could share with us some of the types of bhasmas, like I was fascinated with conch shell.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Shank Bhasma. So there's the Shank Bhasma, which is widely used for people with severe acidity, hyperacidity, and even for people with osteoporosis. There's Shank Bhasma, there's Praval Pishti, Praval Bhasma. These are taken from different shells, and in osteoporosis, you'll see people are taking in calcium, but the calcium starts depositing on their bones after some time.
Yeah.
So when you are taking these bhasmas, they're in such natural form that they get absorbed properly in your bones, and they do not get deposited the way the synthetic calcium gets deposited.
The body recognizes it.
Yes. Yes. Then there are some amazing ones. There's this Kasi's Bhasma, which is basically ferrous sulfate, which is used in it. It acts on the HPA axis also, and it's very useful in PCOS and hormone balancing. There's this Vetumaran, which is a very it's a preparation which is very good for inflammation, for seasonal allergies. So, and they have very quick, you'll see the results very quickly, and which I have given to my daughter also when, because of the seasonal allergies. Then there's, Arogya Vardhani Ras, which has quite a few bhasmas in it. It has Tamra Bhasma, Abrak Bhasma. So it has, mercury, lead, sulfur, and these are, this particular preparation is very good for liver problems. So, and in fact, I was just checking, and I'm going back to the previous question. So there are research being done where they are trying to prove that these are non-toxic. So there's a paper on this particular preparation, Arogya Vardhani Ras, where they have done this experiment where they fed a rat with this preparation as well as just mercury chloride separately, and there was a lot of toxicity problems in it. There was necrosis where the rats were given just the mercury chloride, versus in Arogya Vardhani Ras there was no problems. So the kidney, liver, and brain functions, all tests were done. They were all normal, and because these bhasmas they just get removed, they get excreted out through the urine. So that's why it does not harm you. So I'm just kind of going back to that question.
Okay, yeah, that's
because
great
recently I read this paper and I was like quite intrigued. I was like, that's a good start where now Indian scientists, they are doing the research to prove that these herbometallic preparations, these bhasmas are non-toxic.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. And obviously they've been used for thousands of years in India.
Yes. Again, because the way the amount they have been used, I think last time also I mentioned that if that was the case in India, there would be like a huge problem in health. There would be people with a lot of toxicity happening, but it does happen if you're not using it carefully. Right. If you're overdosing on it and taking it for too long, or just taking by yourself. Herbs also, we keep on saying to not take it without an Ayurvedic practitioner's guidance. But especially these bhasmas, you just cannot take it on your own.
Right. Great advice there. And let's talk a little bit about that, because you really need extensive training on Bhasmas alone. And I know that you've received training one-on-one, because this is, like you said, these are so powerful. And you really need to respect this science and make sure that you have the education before, as an Ayurvedic professional, before you start using them in your practice, right?
Yes. So, because I've lived in India, in the north of India. So in India, if we go by the Ayurvedic preparations, in north of India, majority of the Ayurvedic practitioners are using a lot of bhasmas, and in south of India, they are using a lot of herbs, just plant-based. So, but throughout my life, getting myself taking Ayurvedic herbs or the bhasmas, I have finally come to this conclusion, and also doing my, internships, learning one-on-one with Ayurvedic practitioners back in India. The best protocol that I'm finally come to this conclusion, that for it to be really effective, if you are just being given, especially for a very chronic problem or a problem which you have had for many years, if the practitioner is giving you too many of bhasmas, too many, like 5 to 10, that means there's a red flag. You have to think about it. Or if the practitioner is so the ideal way is to see is the bhasmas will really act on let's say a person has a kidney problem, prostate problem, let's say. So a bhasma is given specifically for that problem. But as we know in Ayurveda, that problem is not just limited to that area, not just limited to the kidney and prostate. There has to be a backstory. And the backstory usually goes back, and usually the gut or the mind is involved. And so then besides the bhasmas, they are like the adjuvants, sehapana, we call it. So those usually the arishtams, the kwathams, which are the herbal preparations, should be given. So your gut is being taken care of. Your mind is also being taken care of, as well as that specific problem. So it's done very beautifully then. So that is what after getting treated as well as learning, I have come to this nice formulation, nice protocol where we need like a combination of both.
Right, exactly. It's a real holistic approach to managing the entire body. And as you said, getting the root cause, but making sure that the whole body is taken care of during the treatment.
Yes.
I'd love to share now the scope of practice as regards bhasmas, right? Because it's obviously different in India and the US and Europe.
Yes. In USA, I'm not sure about Europe, but in USA, we can only use the herbal preparations, which we are. And but back in India, we, as mentioned, in north of India, it's really highly practiced, with majority of them giving you bhasmas, while in south it's more like elaborate. It's the herbs as well as the panchkarma. So a person who really is in a dire need, we would advise them, maybe they want to go to India to find a practitioner. And because in US, hopefully with time, people will understand the importance of it. Because as I mentioned, even back in India, they are doing a lot of research, and even here, there's another conference happening where a lot of Ayurvedic practitioners from India, they have come, who are talking about the bhasmas, the importance of it, and which is happening in Florida soon.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, it's great, given the fact, like you said, they're so effective. The body absorbs them, not like taking, a calcium supplement, which has adverse effects too, like I said, bone deposits and so on. Like, these are really absorbed well by the body. They're very powerful, very effective, and they work very quickly and efficiently. So hopefully, as you said, with all this new research coming out on bhasmas, that there will be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, totally. When I did my Ayurvedic doctor program from Kerala Ayurveda, and our mentor, when they started, he said, which was around 15 years back or so, they said we could only bring in 10 to 12 herbs or so. Yeah. And now they have like 100 plus herbs. Yeah. So you never know when things change, and Bhasmas also introduced. So again, I guess I just want to reiterate that you have to take it under medical supervision. Yes. And you have to find out which companies do a lot of quality control. The testing is perfect. So I know for most of the bhasmas, I try to take in from Dhoop Papeshwar, that company. So because the quality control is really good. So one has to be a little more careful where bhasmas are concerned.
Sure. And what's the company name again? If you could spell it, that would be great.
Yeah, it's DHOOP Pashwar WAR.
Okay, great. Okay. And they're in India.
They're in India.
Okay, wonderful. Just fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing all this information with us today and giving us an introduction to bhasmas.
There's one or two I would like to mention before closing out. There's the Swarn Bhasm, which has basically Swarn is gold. A very small quantity of it it's great for immunity. It's great for the mind. It is a very good rasayana. So, one can talk about this Abrak Bhasma, which is again very good for the brain, it's nourishing. It is good for intelligence. So there are different bhasmas for different system. Mm-hmm. So it's very fascinating.
Yeah. Fascinating how they discovered this thousands of years ago. Simmi, thank you so much. And before we finish up here, please tell people where they can find out more about you and your offerings.
Yes. So I am based in New York City. My website is siddhayur.com, and same Instagram, TikTok handle, that's siddhayur. And whoever comes through Colette and this Element podcast, I would give them 15% off. And I offer therapies as well as the consultation, the herbal protocol.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much. And Siddhayur, that's SIDHAYUR. Yes. And I will put that link in the show notes also. Simmi, thank you so much. Really interesting. As I said, I've been wanting to discuss bhasmas for a long time. So I appreciate you sharing the wisdom on bhasmas today and giving us an introduction to this amazing science.
Thank you, Colette, for getting me again here.
Oh, of course. Thank you. Okay. Until next time, Simmi, take good care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Ayurvedic Doctor Simmi Chopra, and please check out the show notes for all the links mentioned. And don't forget, I have that upcoming 7-day Ayurvedic Rejuvenation Retreat, December 4th to 10th. Spaces are limited, so if you're interested, get in touch and book your place so you can have a choice of accommodation as well. And it would be great to connect in Bali in December. You can also find all about my online services on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com. And for the retreat, just go to the events tab and you'll find all the information there. If you haven't already downloaded or followed the podcast, please do so, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you would like to rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts, I would really appreciate that. It will help spread this wisdom of Ayurveda. You can follow me on social media on Facebook under Elements Healing and Wellbeing, and my new Instagram page is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.